Hello everyone, good afternoon, welcome to this new lecture in our program on the modern novel. Today's lecture is we're going to look at Lord of the Flies in more details. In the last lecture we looked at the summary of the plot. We talked about the main events that happen in the story. Today we're going to look at the symbols, that the most important symbols. Of course, we cannot talk about all the symbols because a lot of things could be symbols, but we're going to focus on the most obvious ones. So, we start first with the conch shell. The conch shell, as we saw, was very important. They found it, the children found it on the beach and immediately used it as an instrument to organize meetings, to summon the children, and to organize who gets to speak in a meeting. So it has a lot of symbolism. Ralph and Piggy discover the conch shell on the beach at the start of the novel and use it to summon the boys together after the crash separates them. Used in this capacity, the conch shell becomes a powerful symbol of civilization and order in the novel. The shell effectively governs the boys' meetings, for the boy who holds the shell holds the right to speak. If you have the shell in your hand, you have the right to speak. And if someone else wants to speak after, they have to ask to hold the shell. In this regard, the shell is more than a symbol. It is an actual vessel of political legitimacy and democratic power. So if you don't have the shell in your hand, you can't speak. As the island civilization erodes and the boys descend into savagery, the conch shell loses its power and influence among them. So this tool, this instrument that in the beginning had a central role to play in organizing meeting and organizing democratic coexistence between these kids, quickly as they descend into savagery, the conch shell loses its central power anymore, its central place in the group. Ralph clutches the shell desperately when he talks about his role in murdering Simon. Later, the other boys ignore Ralph and throw stones at him when he attempts to blow the conch in Jack's camp. The boulder that Roger rolls onto Piggy also crushes the conch shell. This is when he gets destroyed and it kills Piggy, signifying the demise of the civilized instinct among almost all the boys on the island. From this point onward, there is just savagery. Another important symbol in the story is Piggy's glasses. Piggy is the most intelligent, rational boy in the group, and his glasses represent the power of science and intellectual endeavor in society. This symbolic significance is clear from the start of the novel, when the boys use the lenses from Piggy's glasses to focus the sunlight and start a fire. When Jack's hunters raid Ralph's camp and steal the glasses, the savages effectively take the power to make fire, leaving Ralph's group helpless. Another important symbol in the story is the signal fire. The signal fire burns on the mountain and later on the beach too. And the point is to attract the notice of passing ships that might be able to rescue the boys. As a result, the signal fire becomes a barometer of the boys' connection to civilization. So the more they take care of it, the more their attachment to civilization is obvious. When they begin to forget it and ignore it, and they don't remember to keep it lit, that means that their connection to civilization is weakening. In the early parts of the novel, the fact that the boys maintain the fire is a sign that they want to be rescued and return to society. When the fire burns low or goes out, we realize that the boys have lost sight of their desire to be rescued and have accepted their savage lives on the island. The signal fire, thus, in this way, the signal fire functions as a kind of measurement of the strength of the civilized instinct remaining on the island. Ironically, at the end of the novel, a fire finally summons a ship to the island, but not the signal fire. Instead, it is the fire of savagery, the forest fire. Jack's gang starts as part, it's the forest fire that Jack's gang starts as part of his quest to hunt and kill Ralph. This is a strange irony of fate. In the end, the fire that rescues the boys is not the signal fire, it's the incendiary wildfire that Jack and his gang start to wage war and kill Ralph. Another important symbol in the story is the beast. This is an imaginary beast that frightens all the boys and stands for the primal instinct of savagery. As you notice by now that in the story we have, two human instincts that are battling each other. There is the civilized instinct, the instinct of reason and order and responsibility and caring and humanness, and there is the instinct of savagery and cruelty and by any means necessary kind of principle. The boys are afraid of the beast, but only Simon reaches the realization that they fear the beast because it exists within each of them. Only Simon reaches this conclusion, that the beast exists inside us and not outside in the real world. The boys are afraid of the beast because it exists within each of them. As the boys grow more savage, their belief in the beast grows stronger. By the end of the novel, the beasts are leaving sacrifices and treating it as a totemic god. They turned it into a totemic god, a primitive religion where people need to have a visible sign of the presence of the deity. The boy's behavior is what brings the beast into existence. So the more savagely the boys act, the more real the beast seems to become. Then we have the important symbol in the title of the novel, the Lord of the Flies. The Lord of the Flies is the bloody, severed sow's head that Jack impales on a stake in the forest glades as an offering to the beast. This complicated symbol becomes the most important image in the novel when Simon confronts the sow's head in the glade, and it seems to speak to him, telling him that evil lies within every human heart and promising to have some fun with him. This fun foreshadows Simon's death in the following chapter. In this way, the Lord of the Flies becomes both a physical manifestation of the beast, a symbol of the power of evil, and a kind of Satan figure who evokes the beast within each human being. Looking at the novel in context of biblical parallels, the Lord of the Flies recalls the devil just as Simon recalls Jesus. In fact, the name Lord of the Flies is a literal translation of the name of the biblical name Beelzebub, a powerful demon in hell, sometimes thought to be the evil himself. Ralph, Piggy, Jack, Simon, and Roger. These characters, all of them, have a symbolic dimension. Ralph, Piggy, Jack, Simon, and Roger. And because Lord of the Fly, in a way, is also an allegory, just like we saw that Animal Farm was an allegory. That means that it's a story that stands for another story. It's a representation of another story. So, Lord of the Flies is an allegorical novel, and many of its characters signify important ideas or themes. Ralph represents order, leadership, and civilization. Piggy represents the scientific and intellectual aspects of civilization. Jack represents unbridled savagery and the desire for power. Simon represents natural human goodness. Roger represents brutality and bloodlust at their most extreme, to the extent that the boys' society resembles a political state. If we try to look at these boys like a political state, for example, the little ones might be seen as the common people. The little ones because they're kept ignorant. They're too little to understand what's going on. While the older boys represent the ruling class and the political leaders. So if we take the group as a representation, we will see that Roger represents brutality and bloodlust at their most extreme. To the extent that we see this society as a political state, we will see that the little ones represent the common people, people who don't know, right? They just follow, right? They're not smart enough, they're not mature enough to understand how the group is being led. So they just follow, and they need to be protected. While the older boys represent the ruling classes and the political leaderships. And just like any political state, between the ruling classes and the political elite, there is always struggle and sometimes strife. The relationships that develop between the older boys and the younger ones emphasizes the older boys' connection to either the civilized or the savage instinct. Civilized boys like Ralph and Simon use their power to protect the younger boys and advance the good of the group. Savage boys like Jack and Roger use their power to gratify their own desires. They don't care about anybody else. They're like hunting, and they get a high when they go hunting, and that's all they want to do, and they develop a taste for blood and for killing, treating little boys as objects for their own amusement. So this brings us to the end of this lecture. As you can see, the most important symbols in the story are about 4 or 5. The conch shell, Piggy's glasses, the signal fire, and then the characters themselves, who represent, in a way, 2 groups of instincts in the human being. Then we have also the Lord of the Fly as a symbol. So And the group of the characters themselves representing two groups that are often in strife and conflict between each other, and try to drag the group in one direction or another, either towards civilization, harmony, mutual help, democracy, equality, or to a group where its might makes right. It's the strongest person is the one that rules and governs, just like Jack dominates the group because he is the strongest amongst them, and they become slowly more and more primitive and more savage. In the beginning, the other boys, the other children like this idea, they find it appealing and they find a lot of freedom in it. So they're very excited about being part of Jack's group. Even Ralph and Piggy at some point join Ralph's group, but in the end, it's just the excitement of being free and doing whatever you want without anyone telling you what to do. But in the end of the day, we realize, in the novel, we will realize that there is no other way out except by allowing the reasonable ones to think and to help the group reach safety. But unfortunately, that doesn't happen because everybody turns against Ralph. And eventually, when they get saved, it's only when a ship comes, sees the fire, and comes to the island and saves them. I hope you've enjoyed this lecture. Thank you for your attention. Stay tuned, and I'll see you in the next lecture, lecture number 7. Thank you very much, and have a good day.